One of the biggest questions revolving the My Hero Academia universe is about the origins of quirks. Where did quirks come from? I mean, did they really just pop up due to some shining baby, or was that baby just the first in a wave of quirk users that appeared due to some specific event? Who was behind it? And how did it also create an army of secret villains that our heroes might have to deal with in the future? This video contains spoilers from the My Hero Academia manga, so if you're an anime only watcher, make sure to click off this video and hop over to another one of my anime only videos. If you want updates on when more of those will be dropping, make sure to follow me at Vocal Pineapple on Twitter. I'll make sure to link it below. With that said, let's tackle this theory after that intro drops. Hit it! We're told in the first episode of My Hero Academia that no one really knows where quirks came from. They sort of just appeared one day, and ever since then, a portion of the population was born with these powers. At first, a baby with a quirk that caused it to shine was born. This led to people awakening quirks everywhere, and eventually that would lead to the foundation of the Hero Society. That's the story we were told, but is it true? Well, this story seems to be true. I mean, I'm sure a baby was born that had the quirk to shine brightly, and after that, I'm sure people did start developing quirks, but the story just sort of leaves out the how behind everything. One theory is given to us by Chisaki in My Hero Academia chapter 158. See, there's a theory within the My Hero Academia universe, so a theory amongst the characters that live in the universe, that quirks actually developed from a mysterious mutation that could have come from a virus. That's right! Quirks might be the symptoms of a virus that spread all throughout the world of My Hero Academia. This makes me pretty jealous since whenever I catch a contagious virus, I just get sick, and the people in the My Hero verse got powers, so I have plenty of reason to be jealous. We're specifically told that there's no evidence to back this theory up, but it's one of the big motivations behind Chisaki's actions in Season 4, so it can't just be nothing, right? I mean, realistically, villains can definitely have pretty bad reasons to do the things that they do. Some people just want to hurt others, and other villains specifically want to remove the public's faith in the Hero Society, like Shigaraki. But Chisaki's motivations sort of have to have some weight to them due to the gravity of what it is that he's planning to do and the ways that he goes about achieving his goals. Chisaki doesn't care that he has to abuse a young girl by dismantling and reassembling her with his quirk if it means that he can learn more about quirks, their origins, and how to ultimately get rid of them and return the world to zero. Why is this relevant to what we're talking about? Well, remember what Chisaki's general theme is. He's designed to be like a plague doctor. Well, if quirks are like a mouse-based virus that afflicts the whole world, then Chisaki wanting to get rid of them makes perfect sense. Remember that plague doctors were actually originally brought in the first place to get rid of the bubonic plague, or the Black Plague as you know, which was a plague that killed a giant large population of people over in Europe and I think all around the world, but I believe it was centralized over in Europe. Plague doctors basically came around, they went to people's houses right as they were on death's door to maybe, put them out of their misery, peacefully or whatnot, or to get the dead out of the way, and they it's pretty much just their job to make sure that the disease didn't spread, and that's pretty much what Chisaki's trying to do here by getting rid of quirks. It fits with his whole doctor theme and how disgusted he gets by others, and he often calls them diseased or sick. I'm trying to use Chisaki's motivations to support the thought that his theory on the origins of quirks might have something behind it, because narratively, having that theory be true just sort of fits. Is there anything else that could support this theory though? Well, there's a character that we all know in the series that could have ties to this theory due to his mysterious past, and that character is Principal Nezu. I mean, what is Principal Nezu? He's a genius-level mouse that was experimented on and toyed with in all sorts of ways, and we believe Recovery Girl's information during the teacher versus student exams in Season 2. What is Principal Nezu? He's a genius-level mouse that was experimented on and toyed with in all sorts of ways if we believe Recovery Girl's information during the teacher versus student exams in Season 2. She tells us that Nezu's wicked side comes out sometimes due to what humans have put him through. The question I have though is what type of experimenting was actually done on Nezu? We're told that he's unusual because he's a rare case of a quirk manifesting in an animal. So if we know the odds are low that Nezu, a mouse, could have gotten any quirk at all, how much lower are the odds that a mouse could get a quirk that would make him a super genius, capable of communicating with others and doing all sorts of complex calculations in real time? It's very suspicious but you could just brush it off as a choice that Horikoshi made without really worrying about the odds and stuff like that. After all, this is manga, and 1 in a million chances aren't really so 1 in a million if the plot demands for it. Still, I think there's something that we can work with here. You see, if mice really did carry a mysterious virus that mutated in humans to create quirks, then it also makes sense that a virus could mutate inside of its host. Viruses can be pretty unpredictable, and they mutate for various reasons, whether it's to better spread the virus or to better keep the host alive. Whether it's to better spread the virus or to keep the host alive long enough to spread the virus, these things are nasty and they can change depending on the situation. So imagine this. Some group is doing experiments on mice, which eventually leads to some sort of virus being created. Well, what if Nezu was one of these mice? I know you're thinking that that can't be because this would have had to happen a long time ago, even before all the characters that live in the current timeline of the story were alive, but remember that we don't actually know Nezu's age. On his character's profile page, his age is filled with a question mark, and from experience, I'm gonna say that this probably means it'll be relevant at some point, since these character profiles have all sorts of hints for the various characters' places in the story. Let's also remember the phrasing behind Nezu and his quirk. We're told both in the manga panel revealing his quirk and in his character profile that Nezu is a rare example of a quirk manifesting in an animal. That word manifest is a fairly tricky one, because it could also mean that Nezu's quirk is something that developed inside of his body instead of just being there all along. Now of course, some quirk users need a few years before their quirk actually developed. This is why Deku's mom wasn't sure if Deku would have a quirk or not when he was a kid, because some kids are just late bloomers. But we've also literally been told about a baby that pretty much came out the womb with the quirk already active, so it isn't really clear what the timeline is for the quirk to develop or manifest. My idea is that Nezu was one of the mice carrying this virus that was being experimented on. His virus mutated, giving him his quirk, High Spec, and this allowed him to escape and survive, and ultimately become the character that we know today. It isn't clear why he's so big, or if the experimenting he went through might be the cause of that, but Principal Nezu is definitely a character to pay attention to as the story goes on, and the secret behind the existence of quirks is peeled back and revealed. This theory of quirk origins led to the existence of the 8 Precepts of Death, a Yakuza unit created by Kai Chisaki to further his ambitions. But is this the only group that might be tied to these potential origins? No, actually. There's another group of characters that we haven't really seen yet, but their actions and presence could be huge later on in the series, or they might just be stuck in the past. We first hear about these characters in My Hero Academia chapter 171, where we learn about the heroes and villains that are widely recognized. One of these characters, Destro, is an infamous villain in the My Hero Academia universe. He is the leader of the Quirk Liberation Army, and apparently his name has been carved into history alongside others like All for One and Oji Harima, the Uncanny Thief. What could he have done to deserve his name being so well known, and what is it that his army really wants? We don't know. I mean, we don't know if this guy is even alive or not. He could be dead, he could be in jail, or he could be out there still planning something major with his Quirk Liberation Army. The reason that I think we'll be seeing the Quirk Liberation Army in the future is that we've been told that a villain's memoir is inspiring all sorts of new villains. This book has Destro's face tattoo or face paint on the cover, so it's obvious to me that Destro's book is somehow inspiring a new era of Quirk Liberation Army members, and if that's the case, I see him potentially being the head of that army no matter what age he is. Even if it's not specifically him, his legacy will definitely carry on. What's important here though is the assumed logo of this band of villains. Destro wears what seems to be a military style uniform, and on his jacket, there's a patch with, guess what? A mouse on it that has the words "one of them" on the patch as well. This ties these characters to the Quirk mouse origin theory, but it also suggests that there might be some sort of misguided group of villains trying to fight for the rights of quirk users. I mean, villains, again, don't have to be objectively bad. Actually, the worst villains are the ones that do what they do because they think it's for the greater good. When I thought of the possibility that Destro was the leader of some group of villains that fights against groups that might have seen quirk users in the same way that Chisaki did, or the possibility that the Quirk Liberation Army was formed to make it so that quirk users everywhere could use their quirks without needing any sort of formal education or permission, one character and their team came to mind. In Marvel Comics, Magneto is a villain that is often fought for the rights of all mutant kind. Mutants in Marvel Comics are pretty much the narrative parallel to America's history of enslaving and mistreating people that are different than the norm. Magneto comes forth as a sort of Malcolm X-like figure who not only unites the mutants, but also pushes them to take a more militaristic approach in gaining their freedom. Eventually, things sort of go off of the hinges, and Magneto makes it clear that he wishes for mutants to be the dominant race on Earth. His group, the Brotherhood, commits terrorist acts in order to further his pro-mutant agenda. This could be the very same situation that we find Destro in the manga whenever Horikoshi decides it's time for us to meet him, if that's something that'll even happen. Destro's Quirk Liberation Army also shares similarities with the name of another group of Marvel comic characters, the Mutant Liberation Front. So do you think that we'll see these characters and their terroristic acts in the future once the story gets out of the school stuff and goes into some more darker material? Horikoshi has said that the Culture Fest was pretty much the most school-intense arc that he had planned for the series, so I take that to mean that we'll be seeing more things going on in the actual Hero Society eventually. The Quirk Liberation Army could definitely be a threat in the future. Do you think they'll cross paths with Deku or our pro-heroes? And do you think that quirks actually came from a virus found in mice? Let me know in the comment section below or on my Twitter at VocalPineapple, and like the video if you learned anything new or if you were entertained for a bit. Of course, you guys can subscribe to my channel to see more content, and you can hit that bell icon to join my League of Notifications, who gets notifications whenever I upload, and first comment privileges. I thought this theory was super interesting, and I'll be doing more thanks to a great member of the community, Dame Scylla, who has organized some of the most interesting theories pretty well. I'll be back with more soon, so stick around and keep those plates ready. Peace.